Good evening, everyone. Ryan here. Today is our first natural meditation talk in class. So we'll be going through this series for the next month. Every Thursday at 6 p.m. PST and 8 a.m. CST, I'll come on to the live here at the Meditation Center of Chicago, and I'll give a talk, and we'll do a longer than usual meditation session. So for those of you that know me, of course, I'm the host of Soul Talk, and I also do Peace Pause with Hannah Tu and Panyawi Khan and her cousin Kayla. So this class will be quite different. I'm going to really get into the nuts and bolts and mechanics of how to make meditation as easy as possible, how to really have sustained stillness, sustained peace, and get back to the basics and foundation of our meditation practice. So when we become seasoned meditators, we've been doing this for some time. If there's specific habits or tendencies that we have in meditation that are not addressed and cleared up, they can actually inhibit and disrupt our practice later down the line. So one of the issues, for example, is that if you have the habit of sleeping in meditation and you don't directly address that and fix that specific problem, that will become a serious issue later down the line. So you could spend years continuing to sleep in meditation, thinking that you're actually practicing meditation, but really you're just taking a nap. So there should be some things that we need to get clear on when we, at the outset of our meditation practice, and even reviewing it and reassessing it as time goes on. Our practice is an art, and there are certain things that we can do. There are certain tweaks and shifts in our perception that can really help with the process of purifying the mind, with the activity of meditation, and with our spiritual development and spiritual unfolding in general. So for today's class, we're going to start with what I think is a really important notion to revisit for all of us that have been meditating for a while. One moment. That specific notion that I'm going to address now has to do with the culture of self-help. I'm going to use self-help as an example to illustrate this. So when we look at most personal development systems and theories and teachings, there's a centerpiece of the teaching, which we refer to as I, self, me, the individual, separate, subjective self. In personal development, with our career, various activities and goals that we have in our life, it's so that we can make life as comfortable and as meaningful as possible for this self, for ourselves. We can compare this to having a statue. Imagine a statue and polishing that statue as much as you can, repainting the statue, changing the clothes on the statue, changing, modifying, and improving the qualities, the appearance of the statue. This is what we do for our personal selves in our lives when it comes to spirituality and personal development. We're actually trying to improve ourselves. So there's a notion in Buddhism called anatta, which means no self or non-self. It's a core principle in Buddhist teachings. If anyone has read the sutras or commentaries in the Pali, you're all familiar with this specific term, anatta. The sense doors, the body, the thoughts in the mind, the experiences that we have are not self. They are not a solid, permanent, eternal entity. In meditation, when we first start this practice, we're trying to improve our lives. We have an image of what we want our lives to be like, how we would like our circumstances to be, and we make specific changes, whether that's internally or externally, in order for our lives to fit that image, or so that we can attain and enjoy the fruits of that specific image or that specific goal. It's my personal opinion and experience that this type of orientation is not very helpful when it comes to meditation. The orientation that comes with anatta, letting go of the self, non-self, that is much more conducive for a meditation practice. In meditation, we're learning to let go. We're learning not to cling. We're learning to abandon attachment. And in pretty much every other field of our lives, we are constantly, through attachment, acquiring more acquisitions, acquiring more material, acquiring more credentials. By directing our minds at a specific goal, we're able to create specific outcomes. These outcomes happen at the level of circumstance. They happen in time and in form. In meditation, we're transcending time. We're transcending our fixation with time, our obsession with form, our intense need for things to be the way we want them to be. Our entire external lives is goal-oriented, relationship-oriented, has to do with changes in circumstance and our relations and interactions with other people. Meditation is a very internal process. We're going within ourselves. The way of the world, this is a very important point that was addressed to me in the beginning of the practice, but I didn't really understand it until many years later. But the direction that the world moves in, which is outward, the amount of energy it takes to create the life that you want and the circumstances that you want, is based on desire. When it comes to meditation and spiritual unfolding, that entire direction is reversed. So in order to get more things in life, we work harder, we become more creative, we tap the right resources, we meet the right people. Activity, 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 doing, 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 doing. Meditation is a complete opposite. It's non-doing, inactivity. Instead of activity, it's stillness. Instead of multiplicity of ideas, multiplicity of concerns, the mind moving in multiple directions, expecting multiple outcomes, the mind is completely coming back into itself. And all of those ways in which you operate and succeed in the world are the very things that can obstruct your meditation practice. When it comes to our jobs and our relationships, oftentimes when we push, we can have a breakthrough. Athletes have to push, professionals, experts, they have to push themselves in order to reach new levels of achievement. Meditation is the opposite. And this is why I'm calling this course, or this 4-part series, Natural Meditation, because all of the habits that we have, that we use in the real world, are not useful in the internal world. All the pushing, all the striving, all the desire, all the wanting, all the craving that is useful in life to get the things that we want is not useful when it comes to our spiritual life, when it comes to Dhamma, when it comes to Buddhism, when it comes to stillness and meditation. All those habits and ideas that have helped us become the person that we've become oftentimes won't help us in this specific area and in this specific dimension. That's why a lot of type A personalities have a very, very difficult time meditating. The mind is obsessed with doing. It is addicted to activity. Meditation is the reverse. You are letting go of the need for control, the obsession with activity, the cacophony of internal dialogue and internal experiences. So that's enough for now. Let's start the meditation, and if there's any questions at the end, I'll address them. But for the next, let's see here, 30 minutes or so, we'll sit in silence. I'll guide the first few minutes, but I'm sure all of you here are more or less experienced, so let's just allow the silence to bring us into the center, the presence of this moment to really bring us within. So let's begin. You can start by getting very comfortable. For Dhammakaya meditation, there's a specific hand posture that we use. So put the right hand over the left hand and the right index finger connecting with the left thumb. And just place that gently in your lap. If you're seated on the floor, place your right leg on top of your left leg. And close your eyes gently as if you were about to go to sleep. So we'll start the meditation with an intention. Intend to relax. Intend to enjoy the peaceful stillness of the present moment. Intend to let go, to surrender, to meditate at the center. I'll pause for a couple moments in silence. At this point, you can relax your body part by part, or just allow your mind to totally roam and run free at first for the sake of relaxation. At this point, we're not directing the mind quite yet. Just become relaxed and present and mindful first. Notice your whole body and mind relaxing, resting in awareness, resting in stillness. And now, with utmost gentleness, very softly, if you wish, you can imagine a shining object floating within, resting within the center of the body, whether it be a sun, a moon, or a crystal sphere. Gently tend with mindfulness and relaxation to the object. Just observe it gently, easily, almost as if you weren't looking at it at all. Allow this to happen within your body, within the imagination. The purpose of using this object is to gradually and gently still the mind at the center point within. If you wish, you could also use the mantra Sama Arahang. And with your mind's eye, see and feel, hear this sound, sounding from the center of the body. Sama Arahang, Sama Arahang. Continuing to hear and see the shining object within. So just gently continue having your awareness rest at the center, moment by moment. And if at any time the mind wanders, just gently bring it back. Reestablish your awareness and continue again. Continuing again and again. Just noticing stillness, happiness, awareness. For those of you that have difficulties with visualization, observing the breath as it naturally rises and passes, the level of the abdomen is fine, or just resting in awareness, doing absolutely nothing at all. Now rest in silence for the remainder of the meditation. Always have patience in meditation, returning again and again to mindfulness, to relaxation, to that feeling of sabai. If the meditation object changes in clarity, shape, or form, just be an observer. There's no active participation here. Just observe and continue to rest in that feeling of openness, relaxation, continuing in mindfulness, continuing to observe, notice if there's any stillness within, any happiness, any brightness or feelings of peace, and allow those factors to encourage and support your mind, support your attention within. Now let's bring our minds once more to the center, touching that peace, that happiness, that stillness within. Let's begin to spread and share this energy, these merits with all beings. You can imagine the sphere or Buddha image expanding, growing in size to cover the entirety of the complex or home where you currently are. See this light and this peace radiating from you, reaching all the persons in your home or in your place of work. And take a moment to wish that they be happy, that they be free from enmity and danger, that they be healthy, that they be liberated. By wishing them well, allow a feeling of loving kindness to grow, radiating from inside you outwards. Now expand that to cover the entirety of the city that you live in. See this light, this loving kindness from within you, reaching thousands, hundreds of thousands, and even millions of people all around you. Wish that all of them be happy, that they know joy, that they be free from enmity, from danger, from suffering, and that they be liberated. Expand this energy and feeling of loving kindness further to encompass the entirety of your state or province. Wish that all persons, all beings, all creatures, spiritual beings, guardians, protectors, wish that all of them be happy, be free from suffering, that they awaken to the path and be liberated. Extend this sphere, this power of loving kindness to cover the entirety of your nation. Wish that all people, all beings in your country be free from danger, from suffering. Wish that they be healthy, that they be happy. Wish that they awaken and be liberated. And now finally, feel this loving kindness reaching to encompass the entire world. Feel and experience the immensity of this loving kindness spreading in all directions, spreading in front of you, behind you, in the northern direction, and the southern direction, to the west, to the east, upward, downward, spreading in every direction to cover the entirety of the earth. And now wish that all beings on earth, wish that they be free from danger, suffering. Wish that they be healthy and happy. Wish that they awaken and be liberated. Take a moment to really rest in this vehicle of loving kindness. And the intention that there be happiness and peace in this world. That concludes our meditation for today. You can gently move your body and slowly open your eyes. Just take a moment to continue in your awareness now that your eyes are open. Just continue to have that mindfulness and feeling of sabai and relaxation. You can continue to imagine the visualized object or not, whichever is easier for you. And let's take a few seconds of slowness before I begin talking again. Now, to the best of your ability and to the best of my ability, remain mindful while listening, mindful and aware and relaxed while typing. If you have any questions, you can place them in the Actually, sorry everyone, this is straight from Facebook Live. I'm not on a Zoom call, so I don't even think I could take your questions actually. But if you have any questions, just leave them in the comment section. And I will answer them on our next episode, our next meditation on next Thursday. But I do have a few things to say before we end the class. For the continuity of mindfulness, there's specific understandings, specific principles that help the mind really detach from sense data, from form, from thought. And it's that letting go or that non-interference that allows the mind to really come into itself and for its own natural stillness to become manifest. So the interesting idea is that most of us, at least beginners, think that we have to do something to make the mind still. Even the language of making the mind still or stilling the mind, it makes it seem as if we're doing something artificial to quell and calm the activity that's in the mind. The truth is that your mind is already still. You just don't know it yet. Maybe you do if you've been practicing longer. but the mind is already still, already peaceful, already radiant, already pure. But that our awareness has not tapped or reached those depths of stillness and mind yet. But it's not like when you have pristine stillness and brightness that it was something external that came to you. That's not what happens. When a flower or a bud is blossoming, the flower gradually opens up. That empty center in the center of a lotus or in the center of the flowers is like the mind. At first our minds are very closed, like this, very chaotic, very tense. And then gradually, as we meditate, as we practice the path, as we continue again and again, then that deep stillness, that inner peace that everyone is talking about actually becomes manifest, it arises. Why should we reach the stillness? In Buddhist meditation, according to the commentaries and a lot of the Buddhist tradition, practices are seen in two directions or two modalities. The first is called samatha, which means calm abiding, tranquility, cessation. The other is vipassana, which is insight, meditation. In our technique, in the Dhammakaya technique, these two are combined, especially at the higher levels of the practice. But many traditions practice the samatha side first, the cessation, the stilling, the tranquility first. Because the mind at its regular level of meditation, at its baseline level of activity, is too chaotic for a person to see phenomena as it is, to see a situation, to see the aggregates that make up our experience as it is, even just to see experience as it is. Just think of when you get angry or when you have an emotional reaction, how much that clouds your perception. It's similar to meditation. The reason that we want to reach the stillness is because as a person who's practicing meditation, we're on a journey of discovery. Discovering our true selves, maybe it's discovering our purpose, maybe it's discovering enlightenment. Whatever it is that we're trying to discover, the chaos in an ordinary mind, the level of activity in an ordinary mind will make that clear perception muddied, unclear, disoriented, even dysfunctional. So the reason we want to reach the stillness is not only so that we could see things as they actually are, so that we can understand our lives, understand our circumstances, understand ourselves, but also that the true happiness within, the true peace within is inside us. It's not external. That stillness, that peace, that radiance, that happiness, it's all connected. When we reach that deep stillness inside, the radiance of the mind is unveiled, and that immense happiness, that immense joy begins to arise. What is happening usually is that the mind is too crude, it's too coarse, it's too distracted. It's going in too many directions. There's too much going on for that happiness that's already there to be discovered, to be experienced. Is stillness better than calmness? Well, it depends on how we're defining those, because I think calm is more of a reference to our emotional state, or to just a feeling a feeling of calm, a feeling of peace. Stillness is actually the cessation of mental activity or a lessening of mental activity. So those are the two. That's how I would differentiate the two. Calmness is a feeling, peace is a feeling. Stillness is, could be perceived as a feeling. It could feel still, but stillness is more of a perception. It's more of a mental formation or something that is arising purely in that aspect of the mind stream, as opposed to an emotional calming or a feeling of peace. You can have stillness even amidst chaos or a lot of activity. The mind could actually be doing a lot of things, but inside, or you could be engaging in a lot of activity, but inside you're still, there's mindfulness, there's presence. But as a byproduct, that's also going to produce calmness. So those two experiences are related, but I would definitely say that stillness would be the most important, for sure. Yeah, there's a Thai monk named Ajahn Brahm, who gave a criticism of the definition of a lot of the Buddhist meditation techniques. Samatha, for example, is like the practice we're doing now. We're observing a object in the mind. The early Buddhist translators that were English, translating that into English, translated that as concentration. So the mind becoming unified, the mind becoming still, that was translated as concentration, which is not really at all the best translation, actually. A more appropriate translation for the term samatha, or for the term meditation, would be stillness. When we have the idea concentration, that word concentration, we can get some wrong ideas when we practice meditation, especially if we're Westerners. We're used to concentration being a intense focus of the mind, intense pushing force. The most refined stillness does not come through pushing, does not come through force. It comes through a natural awareness, through deepening sabai, deepening mindfulness, furthering in your relaxation. Whatever mindfulness you're able to sustain through effort is not comparable to the natural mindfulness that is already in the mind. It's already there. It's just covered up by activity. So it takes patience for the mind to settle. But once that natural mindfulness is recognized, you realize it's not a matter of effort to establish that mindfulness or remain in it. It's more a process of removing and dealing with the impediments and obstructions to continuing your awareness and mindfulness. How many times should I meditate? You mean how long should you meditate for, or how many times a day should you meditate? I'll answer both of those. I think when we're beginning, it's better to do short sessions and shoot for quality. It's always better to shoot for quality over quantity. It doesn't matter if you meditate for 8 hours a day. If you're distracted the entire time, it's not comparable to meditating for 15, 20, or 30 minutes where your mindfulness is very continuous. The factors of stillness, of concentration are growing. Quality over quantity. So, how many times a day? I think it's best to meditate when you wake up and before you go to sleep. And if you can, more. If you're doing this just to become relaxed and deal with stress in your life, then it's probably best to do that. Same rule, if you can. A few minutes in the morning, a few minutes at night. But if you want to really deepen that stillness, it's going to take more than that. I think on average, just from when you start meditation, it takes some time for things to settle down. So if you keep stopping your meditation sessions before you get to that point, then you rarely, I mean, if you get lucky, you'll have a stroke of progress. But oftentimes, it's going to take patience and meditating for longer periods of time, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, if you can, longer. It just depends on how easily, how quickly, the immediacy of that stillness and calm in meditation. If it happens in 5 minutes and within 30 or 40 minutes your mindfulness is totally charged and your mind is peaceful and powerful and you're able to sustain that even after the meditation, you don't always have to sit long. Absolutely everyone should understand that, well, the question here is, should everyone aim for stillness, or do you only recommend for some people to aim for stillness? No. Stillness is the natural byproduct of mindfulness and relaxation. Also, stillness, the mind presence and mindfulness inherently has a still quality to it. So if you were to close your eyes and direct the mind at itself, or turn awareness in on itself, even for a moment, you notice there's a emptiness. There's a mindfulness and a stillness that's already there. So I don't mean that when we practice meditation we should have the goal of becoming still and that we should put pressure on ourselves to have that goal every time that we meditate. But it's definitely something to notice and look out for, because stillness becomes a factor, it becomes a base for the continuation of your attention. You'll notice that the more still you are, the easier it is for your mindfulness to remain continuous, for that awareness to be consistent moment to moment. But the thing that the main priorities in meditation are that you're relaxed, that you have a feeling of openness, and that you're having awareness continuously, moment to moment, either at the center, on the object, or without an object, if that's easier for you. Yeah, if having stillness as a goal is going to make you more agitated, I would say forget it. But of course, stillness and stopping is the key to success. That was a quote by Luang Pu So, the founder of this technique. The idea is that once the mind is completely still, it's able to access dimensions, it's able to access a reality within the center that otherwise is not possible to access at the center of the body. A luminosity, a peace, a clarity, a power begins to arise in the mind as a result of that, of the unfolding of that stillness. But it's difficult for me to say all of that and not have you set up the expectation of wanting to become still. All I can say is that wanting, that craving for stillness is going to obstruct the stillness. If you're wanting, if you're craving, if you're reaching, if you're grasping, you're not being still, you're not being sabai. So, yes, stillness is definitely where your meditation is going to lead, and you absolutely should know that. But there's no need to rush, push, or force things. Just think of an orange tree. When the orange has grown to its sufficient extent to the point where it's going to fall, you can't just shout at it and tell it to fall. Fall, 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 now. It's the same way with stillness. You can't force your mind into stillness, and you can't command it to be so. usually. I think if you're a more advanced practitioner, your intention enough is able to produce that stillness. But for beginners, all the shouting and all the ruckus is not going to help. One of Long Pa's teachings is that every time we meditate, we should meditate as if it was the first time we've ever meditated. Just like a kid. The reason kids are so good at meditation is because they don't have any expectations. They sit, they're sabai, they just have peace, and they sit. Easy, no problem. They don't have any expectations. So there's a difference between having an orientation, a direction, and an expectation. So for me, when I meditate, I orient myself towards stillness, towards happiness, towards peace, towards presence, right? But I don't set up an expectation. I don't set up a goal that says, okay, I want my meditation to be like this. And if it's not like this, I'm going to be upset. You could call that an expectation. If you sit in meditation and you are trying to just sitting like this, and you're just wanting the mind to stop, that's not helpful. Yeah. Stilling the mind and stopping the mind are the same thing. They're just different words for it. The common term for that in Buddhism be tranquility, calm abiding, samatha, cessation, stilling, stopping. Those are all mean the same thing. So stopping, when the mind has stopped, it's still. When the mind is still, it's stopped. It's a play on words. It means the same thing. Originally, the more common term that we used here at our temple was stopping, but then that's a big word for a lot of people, and it makes people like seize up and tense. You gotta stop the mind. Okay, it's the same thing, but we just word it differently. We say still the mind because that's easier for people to grasp, and doesn't put a sense of pressure on you to force the mind in any way. But when we use the word stopping the mind, there's a sense that there's an agent, there's a you that needs to stop things, within. And that sense of control and that sense of force is not helpful in meditation. Stilling, allowing things to become still, allowing things to settle. This is a way that wording things this way is more helpful for people, even especially for beginners. But ultimately, it leads to the same thing. When the mind is completely still, thoughts, perceptions, even sensations have stopped. So I think we are at our hour, so maybe we've gone over a little bit. Yes, Vanessa, stilling is more natural, exactly. When we say stop, we think of a stop sign. And although that is what is happening and what is going to happen, it can make meditation difficult for people. I remember when I first started and I saw that Lung Bu quote, stopping is the key to success. It just made me sit like this. You're just trying to stop the mind. You're trying to use force. And it doesn't work. Even if you can force the mind to be still for a few seconds, eventually your attention comes undone and all these thoughts and everything starts to arise again, and then try to suppress it down again. If you just are still and are natural and you keep relaxing with mindfulness, eventually that awareness in a way opens up, and that those depths of stillness that are already inside you become manifest. It's like when we're in the ocean, or when we're at the ocean, for anyone who's been there. When you're going into the water, the waves that are coming in are very intense the closer it is to the sand and the shore. Like the shallower the water is, the more intense the crashing of the waves is. But as you get deeper into the water and further out into the ocean, especially if you're scuba diving, you find that once you get past that initial hectic or more active water, you find very, very deep levels of, there's just not the same activity in the water, not the same motion, not the same intensity in the movement. And it's the same way for our minds in meditation. The more patient we are, the more mindful and relaxed we are, the more of that deep stillness begins to come to the forefront and begins to arise. So that whole process of forcing the mind is just enhancing the sense of self. It's enhancing volition. It's enhancing the ego. It's enhancing the you, which needs to get out of the way for meditation to actually flourish, for that stillness to really open up, for that brightness, for that peace to come, to arise. That sense of you has to get thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner. That sense of me has to get thinner. And that stillness becomes more manifest. Those qualities that I mentioned become more manifest. It's the gargantuan, solid self that we all identify with, the stories that we tell ourselves, the things that we want to do, the things that we want to become. Those are all fine and real in the dimensions that they exist in. But when it comes to meditation, when you're in that deep stillness, when you're in that deep peace, and that awareness and that brightness is there, all of those stories, your memories, the memories that you attach to, the name that you attach to, the form that you attach to, your physical body, all of those sensations, all of those perceptions will have stopped. The mind will be still. Those perceptions, the multiplicity of forms and sensations arising in the mind, there will not be multiplicity anymore. That is the whole point. The mind has become completely unified. Even if there's still some data coming in from the senses, it doesn't take the mindfulness away from the center or from the object. It's like it's there on the periphery, but mostly the wholesome qualities of the peaceful mind, of the luminous mind, those factors are going to take up the majority of your perception and of your experience. So when we're meditating and there's this intense happiness, this intense brightness, the first thing that a lot of people do is we start commenting on the intent, on the brightness. We start commenting on the peace. Like, oh, so much peace. Oh, I've never felt so much peace, never seen so much brightness in my life. That's a normal reaction. But that commenting, that commentary, and that discriminatory aspect of the mind, the part of the mind that's judging, that's analyzing, that's evaluating, that automatically will push you out of the stillness and the brightness. It's so common. We have the brightness come, and then immediately we grasp for it. We try to reach out for it, or we start talking about it in our minds, and then it goes. You've moved out of stillness. That's why the brightness reduced. That's why the happiness reduced. So it's a process of training to have those positive experiences, those positive feelings in meditation arise, and continue to be neutral, continue to be mindful, continue to be sabai. Vanessa, yes. Stopping is more forceful. Yeah, thus losing ease and naturalness, 100%. So next week, I'm going to go further into this subject of meditating naturally, meditating in a way that's very easy. The subject I'm going to discuss specifically is that all of us have different ways for stillness to arise. All of us have different ways to meditate successfully, easily, in a way that's really comfortable for us. And it's something that I want to discuss and go over with everyone, because for many years, visualization at the center of my body did not work for me. It actually really made me agitated. Really, really agitated. For some people, visualization and using their imagination is fantastic. It works. It's an easy thing. Their mindfulness is continuous. The stillness is there. It's wonderful. In our tradition, there are three main ways to practice. Using a visualization, using the mantra, combining the two, or just resting the mind in awareness at the center of the body. I'm going to get into how, if one of these methods is difficult for us, that we could switch and use another one, and how that can even change throughout the day. For example, in the morning, for whatever reason, visualization doesn't work, and it's easier to observe your breath. I want to introduce all of you to the idea that you don't have to use a specific meditation technique. As long as the mind's at the center, as long as the mind's resting in awareness or mindfulness, even if putting the mind at the center bothers you and agitates you, just having general awareness is okay. And these are all ideas that I want to share and experiences that I want to share with all of you next week, because I wasted a lot of years trying to force visualization. And it wasn't until I learned that it was really the use of imagination with relaxation that really made that visualization aspect of the practice much easier for me. If visualization is hard for you, there's other ways to practice. If using a mantra is not something that you like to use, you don't have to use it. So I'm going to go over ways to be flexible with your meditation practice and with your, on the cushion and off the cushion. So how to have mindfulness and relaxation in meditation, outside of meditation, and how we can be adaptable and skillful in applying those principles and those techniques. So that's going to be the subject next week. More natural ways to meditate. Okay? So thank you everyone for coming to class today. I know we went way over time, but I wanted to get to all the questions. So thank you for sitting with me, and if you like the show, please share it with your meditation friends or with your family and people that you care about. If it can help them, of course, please send it over, and remember to click like, and if you have any questions that you want me to get to next week, just put them in the comment section. Okay. Rejoice in your merits, everybody. Thank you very much, and I'll see all of you next week.